Hi everyone, and welcome back to my third video in my Small Business Server 2003 series. In the last video we looked at completing the post-installation tasks and we finished looking at the server management dashboard. So in this video we're going to look at getting to grips with the server management interface, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what it is and what you can do in here. So with that, let's get started. So like with most things in Windows Server, everything is in a management console and is hierarchied in what's called a tree view. So as you can see here at the side, we've got our two items in our tree view. We start off with a home page, which gives us our key items that we might want to look into, and then it gives us our standard management tasks and our advanced management tasks. So if you're not completely tech savvy, then the standard management tasks is pretty much where you're going to be living most of the time. However, the advanced management tasks show you the sort of bare bones of what Small Business Server is and what it can do, such as you've got direct access to group policy, Active Directory, Exchange, all that stuff. A lot of the stuff we're going to be covering in this video is we're not going to be touching these, because we're going to be letting Small Business Server handle all the work, and we're just going to be instructing Small Business Server what we want to do. So the first thing we find underneath our standard management is the to-do list, and you'll notice that this looks rather familiar. This is because this is the exact list we worked with in the previous video. Underneath that we have the information center, which was a bit more of like a social network back in the day. So we had quick access to Small Business Server updates, and we had links to the community forums and technical support, that sort of thing. A lot of the links in here don't even work anymore because the product is so old, but that was the whole idea behind the information center. Underneath that we have the internal website, which was where you would configure the Small Business Server's website. So you can come in and you can manage your company website, your SharePoint, that sort of thing. So that's where we would go to manage all that sort of stuff. Underneath that we have our fax services. Now that is the one thing I'm not going to be covering in this series, unfortunately. That is because I don't have any sort of fax hardware anymore. Underneath that we have our reporting and monitoring, which is where we can configure the monitoring of the server and some basic monitoring of the client PCs. You can also configure the usage reports. Oh, you can see we've got a couple of errors already here. Have a look, see what that could be. Server was restarted. Yeah. When you work with Small Business Server, you'll find that it really doesn't like being rebooted, but that's kind of the nature of what's going on here, really. Especially in a lab. So here we have the option for all the options for reporting and monitoring. Underneath that we have internet and email. So this is where we would come in and configure things like our Microsoft Exchange. So you can see in here that's where we would configure our modem if we had one, but we don't. Synchronizing email would be to force Exchange to talk to a POP3 connector. We're not using those. We've also got things like configure remote access and all that stuff we've already set up, so you could come here to tweak a lot of those settings. Underneath that we have shares. Now this is one of the most important places in Small Business Server, because this is where we come in and configure our shared folders. You can see here we've got all the ones that Small Business Server has by default. It's quite important that you don't delete any of these, because a lot of them are there for Small Business Server to function. So I would leave those alone, but we can go in here and we can configure things like document redirection. In fact, why don't we turn that on? So a group policy that would normally take a good 20 minutes to configure is as simple as checking a radio button in here, and now we can have all of our clients' documents folders redirected to the server. We can also view our online and connected users. I don't think we're going to get many. Hey, we've got a couple. And that's the server itself. You can see here it's jumped us into advanced management there. So that is manage share folders. Underneath that we have our backup. As you can see here, our backup is, we can see when our backup is set to run, and we can then choose whether to restore individual SharePoints, modify the schedule, that sort of thing. Under licensing, you can view your current small business server licensing. As you can see here, we have 5 client access licenses installed. We have the option to back up our licenses, which is really cool, to a floppy disk if you've still got one of them. We also have a link to purchase some licenses. As always, the website's not working with Microsoft anymore. Underneath that, we have our users section where we can define our user accounts. You can see here, here's the one we created in the last video. You can also do group management, offer remote assistance, rename users, disable users, anything to do with user accounts we can do from here. Client computers, so here you can see the client computer we pre-set up in the last video, but here you would be able to manage applications, client computers, what users are assigned to which computers. All that can be handled from here. The server window is where you would manage your various servers in your network. Most of the time with Small Business Server, you're only going to have the one, hence why we've only got the SPS showing here, and it is showing with the correct operating system. We can also go in and set up server computers if we want to set them up before we are ready to go, getting them on the network. Next we have printers, so here you can see the printer we set up in the last video. You can go in and quickly manage the print queue and things like that. Under that we have distribution groups. Now these are groups for emailing only. So a distribution group can receive emails and distribute them to all the members of the group, but cannot play any role in security, i.e. determining who has access to what folders. Security groups is the complete opposite of that. They, in some ways, they control who has access to what, but they can also receive emails. So a security group, you can see here we've got all the ones that Small Business Server defines automatically. Again, like with shared folders, we want to make sure we don't delete any of those because it can stop Small Business Server from working correctly. User templates is a really cool feature of Small Business Server. This is all the templates of users that we can have, and you can see here this is the one we used in the last video. Don't be alarmed that they've all got little X's on them, that is nothing to worry about. We can go in and we can change the properties of the template, and once we change the template, Small Business Server can actually roll out the properties as well. So one of the things we are going to do in this video is we're going to create our user template. So we're going to create our new user template, and we're going to go in and under template name we're going to type in designers. This template should be the default option. We can leave that checked. Power users can use this template when creating user accounts. That's correct. So in the next screen we want to assign what groups are available. So a lot of these do give specific permissions, so you want to be a bit careful about assigning them. So the first one we're going to add is users. The next one we are going to add is mobile users and remote web workspace. So this is going to make sure that these users can work remotely and use the remote web space. I'm going to click next. Which distribution groups do you want to be a member of? So we're going to hit add. I'm going to hit next. And on the SharePoint, on our SharePoint company intranet, what access do we want to give them? I'm going to give them contributor access, so that they can upload files, but they can't change any designs or administer the site. I'm going to hit next. We can enter some address information. I'm not going to bother with this. The next screen is disk quotas. So how much space do we want to allocate them on the server? Doesn't mean that that's going to take away from our disk usage. It just means that's the maximum they can use. I'm quite happy with these defaults, so I'm going to hit next. And like with anything, we get a brief overview of what we've just asked for. In this case, I'm going to hit finish, and the template's going to be created for me. So we just created our designer's template. So that is a brief overview of the server management console in Small Business Server. In the next video, we're going to look at creating groups and adding users. Thank you very much for watching this video.